now.
Get that part out.
Hey y'all! Oh, my voice is just not working today. Okay, so I don't know why I just did that.
Smiling.
I know. So we wanted to come in and talk about the new roots that's coming out. Well,
You're saying that like you're reading a cue card.
I know. I'm not.
We want to
I was trying to
come
figure out
out
how to say it.
and
Okay. I was trying to figure out how to say it. Like, because it's really not new roots because it's the same exact story, but it's remade or remastered or whatever. So it's like,
we're gonna watch Roots.
okay, tomorrow. So what we kind of wanted to do was talk about
That's tonight, babe, isn't it?
no, it said Memorial Day.
Oh.
Memorial Day is tomorrow,
Oh.
but we'll
I
check
thought
and
it
make
was today.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think it said Memorial Day, so I
Okay.
think it is tomorrow. We wanted to talk about what the original roots felt like for us, or our experience with the original one, because we are lucky enough to have experienced the first one, which was 30 years
The
ago.
original, yeah, that was
30 years ago.
a while back.
And now we will.
78?
Yeah, 78. I was in junior high school.
I was in elementary.
Don't say it like that. We're only a year apart. I was in the 7th grade. He was in the 6th grade. Because he's going to make it seem like I'm some, like I'm 100 years old and he's like 70 or something. Like I'm patrolling the elementary school yard and I'm in high school trying to get a little kid to be my boyfriend. No. Okay,
I
so
love older women. Okay.
we're supposed to be on here talking about roots, and he is
Okay.
someplace.
You started that one.
Okay, so when the original roots first came out, my mother was extremely excited about, the movie. Like, she really wanted me to watch it. It was one of those situations where me and my mom watched the entire series together. Like, actually, I'm sitting on the floor, she's sitting on the couch. We, watching it together. And after each night, we would, kind of talk about it or what.
Really?
Yeah, I guess she kind of wants to see how I felt or, was any weird feelings coming up, in which I did have these feelings, but I didn't really know I was having these feelings until I got around my other friends
At school.
at school. And I want to say this. I grew up in a predominantly black area. And when I say predominantly black, I mean black. Like, what is it? I had no white friends at all.
There's only one kind black.
No, there's black, and then there's black. So
I'm glad it wasn't black. That's all.
So I grew up black. Like, I think it was maybe one or two white kids in my elementary school. Of course, there were white teachers, but I'm talking about the population of the school itself. Okay, so junior high school, there's basically, that I can remember, one white family. And I'm not going to say their names because
Because they're probably watching.
no, because they still live in this area. Like, I ran into the girl when I was working at Naval Air Station. So I think they still, like, stay in this area, and I don't want to, like, bust them out. But it was difficult for them, you know, because a lot of things that we saw in the movie Roots had never been told to us in school. Like, a lot of us kids, we didn't know that our ancestors were brought over here on slave ships. We just didn't know how difficult it was for Africans in America. We had no idea. Like, we knew that, you know, black people were slaves and all that kind of stuff, that we picked cotton and, you know, we went through. But to watch it on TV, I think made it real.
Well, my experience was a lot different because I lived in a white area, but my school, my elementary school, was all black. So I had black school friends and all white neighbors, and so that's how I got along. I mean, all my friends, when we didn't look at it as anything different. I mean, they were just friends. But when I got home from school, I lived in a city called Hercules, a city called Hayward, and my mom had went to work in Berkeley, and because of the way it was, my mom would drop me off over in Berkeley, and I would go to school in Oakland because that's where my grandmother lived, and I'd go to school, and mom would get off work, and then she'd bring me home. But after school, and after I got everything done, I go out and play, and then my best friends they were all white. So I didn't notice it then, but I did notice how I talked and how I acted around certain groups. When I was at school, I would say things like, "Yeah, blood, that's cool." And then when I was around in Hayward, around my friends at home, it was, "Hey, how are you guys doing?" And it wasn't that black and white, but there were subtle things that I kind of noticed. But that's the way it was. But I mean, when Roots came out in 78, I mean, that was an interesting time for me. I mean, it was big. I mean, Star Wars was out. I was becoming a teenager.
Stick to the thing.
I wasn't talking about Star Wars. I was just talking about that era. And so I didn't care anything about Roots. I really didn't.
See, I did.
Well, see, that was the thing. I didn't care about Roots because it had no impact on me. It wasn't. Now my parents, especially my pop, he was gun ho. My pop is basically pro-black, and he is seriously pro-black. I mean, I wouldn't say that he's a racist or bigot, but he's just really, if it's black, it's that's the way it's got to be. But he's always raised me to believe that if you black, you got to get back. You know, if you white, you all right. And that was his philosophy, and that's what he drilled in me. And so when Roots came out, this was the lesson he had me, you know, you sit down and you watch this. And so we had to watch it as a family.
Because we have to look at the fact that our parents grew up in a totally different era than we did. Our parents saw black and white drinking fountains. You know, they understood they were from Louisiana. My parents, his parents were from Louisiana, and so were mine. So my parents knew what it was like to go through segregation. I mean, the 50s and the 60s, my parents were there. They saw all of this. I mean, they knew what it was like firsthand to lose Martin Luther King. I mean, all of these things that he and I have just read about in textbooks, our parents saw that.
Well, we grew up shortly after.
Shortly after. Yeah, but I mean, we didn't have to live the life.
No.
We didn't have to go in places
No.
and see water fountains that said black, Negro,
No, but see
or
what I'm
white.
saying, and the reason I brought up things like Star Wars was because that's where my head was. I mean, I was into having fun, and I love science fiction, and I knew Star Wars was coming out, and they were like, well, yeah, you can go by yourself, and I was going to a walk-in theater by myself. That was a big deal to me. Roots came out right around that same time. And all this time, what I'm saying is, my pop, and my mom, not so much, but my pop was more of, you just can't trust white people. Which was a problem for me because I lived around white, we lived in a white neighborhood.
And you had white
And I had
friends.
white friends.
Yeah.
And so he didn't have a problem with them coming over my house, and I didn't have I mean, there was no problem. I mean, none that was spoken of in or around me that, my pop or anybody, our friends said anything about color. I'm just saying that
Oh, we already had 11 minutes.
well, we'll probably do a part two. I just said that it was difficult for me growing up and having fun with friends out in the street and saying, wow, we're going to go and we're going to watch Evel Knievel do a jump, or we're going to go and see Star Wars and stuff. And then I got my pop in the background like, don't trust white people, da 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 da, And that was a conflict for me. So when Roots came out, I didn't want to have anything to do with it.
And my mother was very similar to his dad with the distrust of white people and always be careful, with your dealings with white people. So I grew up with that skittishness of them. Because really the only dealings that I had with white people as a child was them being a teacher or I guess my doctor or something. But at the time, my medical doctor was Asian growing up. Like almost my whole childhood, my doctor was Asian. So, white people were always an authority figure for me. So when Roots came out and we had this one white family at our school, they took a hit. I mean, I think about what we did to those kids.
You make it sound like you murdered them or something.
I mean, the way
did to them.
I mean, we bullied them. Seriously, like we bullied them. We taunted them, and we didn't hit them, or we never put our hands on them. But words are as hurtful sometimes as your fists. They really can hurt you. And we did this to these kids that had nothing to do with what had happened to
See,
our
I got
ancestors.
the exact opposite. My best friend, who was white, he came to me and said, you know what, that stuff, and these were his exact words, and I remember them vividly. He said that stuff that white people did to black people was really messed up, and dude, I'm sorry. It was awkward. It was really awkward because we had never talked about race. We had never been on that level. It was always just playing and having fun. I knew they were white. I knew I was black, and there was no real conflict. I don't recall anybody except for one time ever calling me a nigger. Only one time. And that's a whole nother story, but that was it. I really did have a really fun childhood. It was fun when I was in Oakland going to school, and it was fun when I was in living in Hayward. That's the way my life was. But it was just we had all different reactions, and I guess we'll have to do this in another part. But once
We'll just cut it.
Okay.
Yeah.
One for the money, two for the show. Don't play me, honey, this is how we go.